Adam Engst at the Diablo Valley Macintosh User Group, Part 2. This is MacVoices. Today's MacVoices is supported by MacVoices After Dark. Uncensored, off-topic, and always off the wall. MacVoices After Dark is available as a benefit to our Patreon subscribers. Sign up at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joiner. This is part 2 in a virtual visit that Adam Engst and I did with the Diablo Valley Macintosh User Group. We get back into the conversation by covering why Apple drops out of some product segments. Let's go back and let Adam do the talking. Adam, take another spin on that and see if you would agree with me. I sometimes think that one of the reasons we don't see certain products is that Apple either A, feels like they can't add any extra value being Apple, or B, they can't make any money at it. And that's my opinion for why they got out of the airport market, the airport base station market, and because they felt like they couldn't make any money at it given all the competition that was out there for better price. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think you're right. No, I think you're absolutely right. The airport was a good example because Apple got into that world because the base stations that were available weren't very good and they were hard to use, and so Apple came out with Airport Utility, and you configured it via a nice app rather than these horrible web interfaces and things like that. But what we saw was that Apple couldn't keep up. The mesh networking kicked in. The other manufacturers could just move way faster. And I suspect some of that was the commodity hardware, that presumably, Chinese companies said, here's the chips, and 17 manufacturers could slam those into a plastic case and have a base station that worked pretty well. And they could keep moving quickly on that. Whereas Apple couldn't really add much value, once the web interfaces got good enough. So, so it made sense to get out of that market. I find the monitor market to be a little different. I mean, keep in mind, Apple dropped everything. They had nothing for a while. Then they come up with the Pro Display XDR, which I just looked, it is a 32-inch screen. And we're like, oh, great, Apple's going to have a monitor. It's freaking $6,000. You've got to be kidding. They came up with a monitor that they're calling cheap because they're comparing it against $15,000 reference monitors. I'm like, yeah, okay, but I get that there's a particular audience for that, but seriously, $6,000 for a screen? And and then when the Studio Display came out, at least $1,600, which is the amount of the base one, without the height adjustable stand. It's not ludicrous, right? You don't just laugh at it like you do the $6,000 for the Pro Display XDR, but you really have to kind of swallow hard, particularly when you start comparing it to the price of the iMac. Obviously they dropped the 27-inch, but the 24-inch iMac starts at $1,300. So, and that's for a whole computer plus the screen. So, that's where it's a little tough. But I think Apple they could offer. I mean, they are offering more value in some ways. The Studio Display does have a really nice webcam. It actually has a processor. It has, I think, an A13 in there. So it's got and it's a good size and all those kinds of things that other companies aren't doing, but Apple isn't targeting it to the price point where people would just buy. If that monitor was $800 instead of $1,600, let me tell you, people would be just all over it, and a lot of people would have two. So as I said, it's just too much.
Kenji brings up the fact that this is a great time of year to buy an Apple product because you have the longer holiday return policy. So if you buy between November 4th and
more
December,
than 14 days even.
Yeah, so that you have through January 8th to make up your mind. So great point. Thank you. But he also wants to know, Adam, what your impressions were of the AirTags.
I didn't. I mean, they probably had AirTags there. I didn't actually look at them there. We have an AirTag, and I like the AirTags. I think the AirTags are cute. I think they're useful. I'm not personally the target market for AirPods or AirTags. I don't lose them. I don't lose things. I'm just that's not the sort of person I am, and so I don't forget things. I don't leave things behind, and so that's not. I've never found a use for it. I brought my AirTag whenever we've traveled, but we also don't check luggage whenever we travel. So it's mostly caused. It's not so much the AirTag actually. It's my MacBook actually is the one that tends to get me. Is it will find it in some Find My network will find it in some location, and then we'll move somewhere, and it won't update the MacBook, and so I'll get an alert on my phone saying your MacBook Air has been left behind. I'm like panicking. I'm like, no, it's still in my bag. I don't know what you're thinking. So all that said, I think the AirTags are brilliant little devices, particularly for people who check luggage. If I check luggage, I can guarantee there'd be an AirTag in every one of my suitcases. There are, I certainly know people who, well, my grandmother growing up, she lost her keys on an average about like 3 times a week. So, and her purse and everything else. I mean, she was just an absent-minded woman. And as a small child, we thought this was amusing. There was even one time like we were downtown, in Ithaca and shopping or something, and she lost her keys. So she's like, "Oh, you stay here. I'll walk home and get my other pair, a mile away." I'm like, "All right, no problem." So any of that. So I could see there are definitely people who that's really good for. I did look, when we were at the Apple store, all the little leather cases and attachments and hooks and things that Apple sells, and they looked like they were nice. That again, if you were the one problem with the AirTag, mine's downstairs, so I can't sort of hold it up and show you while I'm talking about it. The one problem is that these little slippery discs, which is great, but they're fine for dropping in something. But then a lot of times you want to attach them to something, and for that you really do need a fob. My suspicion is that Apples are really expensive, and if you go on Amazon, you can probably find a vast number of much cheaper tags for the or cases for the AirTag. Now, the one that one thing I have been thinking about with an AirTag, blank on the name of it, Gravity maybe. There's a company that makes this wonderful case that it can attach a very, very strong adhesive, and then it's a waterproof case for the AirTag. And the idea is that you can use it to attach the AirTag to a bicycle, like under the seat maybe, or to if you have an equipment case, where you want to make sure that the AirTag doesn't ever get dropped, fall out of the equipment case. And so having these really permanent waterproof holders for the AirTag struck me as a really nice idea. And I was like, I don't think I would ever lose my bicycle, but it's conceivable that it would be stolen. And, that would be something that I would potentially want, an AirTag telling me where it was. So I have been thinking about that as a possible useful thing. Anyway, and if you know anybody who, again, has an expensive bicycle, like kid at a college, if they have a nice bike, I would put one of these things on it so fast because bikes at college tend to walk. They would ride, but they need a person to do that. They walk on their own. You're muted again.
I got to keep split off the switch. This is a little neoprene case that costs. I think I got 4 of these for like $8.
Right.
And so my AirTag does not need rich Corinthian leather. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. It's just this is good enough. It gives a little protection, but more importantly, it gives you the fob part that you can hook onto something. Because I keep one in my backpack, I keep one in all my luggage. There's one on my keys. There's one hidden in my car, so that if the car ever gets stolen, I can find it. So they're absolutely useful. I know there's been a lot of questions about people tracking and all that, and that can be a whole nother discussion too. But these do everything that they're advertised to do and more. So if you have the need, go for it.
Yeah.
Let's see if
So Kenji noted in the chat that if you have it on a bike and someone takes the bike, then the AirTag would make a sound or get a notification, and that's true potentially, but not for a while. That it's not an instantaneous thing, and there was a big discussion about this in Tibbet's talk. Peter Lewis, actually, who writes, he's the author of Keyboard Maestro. He was looking to getting one of these for his son. He was initially concerned that the bike would start, if it was just left on campus for more than 8 hours, it would start playing a sound because no one's moved me. But basically, it doesn't do that unless it moves and then sits. So it is tricky, but for the most part, the AirTags are really not designed to protect against theft. They're really designed to be something where it's just, oh gosh, I left my bag in the library, or I left my bag somewhere. Where did I leave my bag? Or even I left something in a taxi. So it's much more aimed at that. If you're going to use it for kind of theft prevention, you're really going to want to hide it as well as possible. And it won't. There's no question that if someone has an iPhone, it will alert them eventually. Alert the thief eventually. But like people I know, a lot of people put them in their car, and you can hide an AirTag in a car pretty well, such that someone's not going to be able to find it quickly. And presumably, you'll know that your car has been stolen soon enough. So it shouldn't be a big surprise there.
Yeah. Kenji says, I've read it's easy to pop the AirTag open and remove the speaker to silence it. I haven't tried that. I don't know how easy it is, and I see your point, but at the same time, then you are taking away at least one use case where you can call, if you lose your keys in your house, you can tell the AirTag to play a little tone.
Yeah. And,
it's not terribly loud, but it's enough that if you're quiet, you can usually find your keys.
Well, I think with the AirTag, at Apple, they're priced well. They can get 4 for $100, $25 a piece, and I think Apple really sees them as being dedicated. This one is going to live here, and this one is going to live there, and really, you're never going to change that up. And I'm a little weird in that regard because I'll take this one on, take it on a trip because I'm going on a trip now, and it'll sit on the counter for a while because I'm not doing anything, and I'll, every now and then I'll want to test something, so I'll pop it in the car and that kind of thing. So they don't really expect that. They really expect it'll be one and done for each AirTag.
Folks, any questions that we can answer? I can always keep Adam going for a long time because I've always got things that I want to wind him up on. But if there's anything you want to hear, please.
We are not talking about Twitter this time, Chuck.
No, I was not going to bring up Twitter. I was going to bring up something equally as fun.
Oh, no.
So just today we saw Google get fined $400 million for privacy violations. And it seems like there's been so much talk about, Apple and what they're tracking, what they're not tracking, how much information they're collecting on you, what they're doing with it. I think it's easy to dismiss and say, well, Apple, they have to take some of your information in order to service you and service their products. But do you think there's any danger that we're seeing a shift in Apple away from the privacy, or are these things just clickbait?
So, there is something that's going on with, if you can tell your iPhone, do not track me in any way, shape, or form. And someone actually did some network scanning, network sniffing after turning that on, and discovered that a bunch of these things a bunch of Apple apps still talk to Apple and still are relaying information to Apple. And Apple's definition of tracking is sharing the information to another party. So apps are actually allowed to track you. They're allowed to ask you for permission to know things about you, and that's fine. What they're not allowed to do is then to share that information with other third parties, and that was the big thing that with app tracking transparency that hurt Facebook so badly, because Facebook wanted to take all that information that they collected and then share it to all the advertisers in essence, or use other people to collect it and then bring it into the Facebook world. So I do think that Apple's being a little disingenuous if it's collecting data, even if it's not sharing it or using it for advertising purposes. And I'm guessing that fairly soon we'll see someone at Apple will have to say something, because this is this commentary is gathering momentum. And then simultaneously, I don't think that Apple, for the most part, cares. Like, Apple's business has not really been based on knowing things about its users. Apple's business is based on selling things to its users. So it doesn't really care much about you as long as you keep buying. However, and this is the big however, Apple has started to get into advertising in a bigger way. And I am wildly unenthused about that. For one, I'm just tired. I'm tired of everything being transactional. And, I went into the App Store app for the first time after upgrading to iOS 16, or maybe it was something else that triggered it. And Apple's like, can we send you notifications about new apps? I'm like, no, get the hell out. I do not need to get notifications about new apps or anything like that. I don't. I use my iPhone for the things I want to use it for. I don't need to be told about more stuff that you could want me to do and presumably sell me. And so I believe that less of the world should be transactional. It should not, the world does not have to involve money at all points in the time, all times of places. And advertising creates a transactional world. We actually don't want billboards everywhere. And that's what this is billboards everywhere. It's bad enough that we got enough billboards, out in the world that we have. But what if you had a billboard every, 50 feet? You get one past one build, there's a next one. And that would be problematic. And I think people would rebel in the real world. And that's kind of what's happening in the online world, and particularly, and as we've in the past, Apple has been good about not doing that, and I fear that's changing. And so we will see how that works out.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by our Patreon subscribers and MacVoices After Dark. Ever wonder what happens before the MacVoices live shows, or what happens when the show ends, or after the live feed closes? That's where MacVoices After Dark comes in. If you are a Patreon supporter at any level, you get access to the video of our off-camera conversations. Uncensored, unedited, and always off the wall. It's a small thank you to our Patreon supporters who want to peek behind the curtain. Become a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/MacVoices. And thanks to everyone who supports the show. Going back to the iMac, David asks, is it technically and financially conceivable for some third party to create an interface for using the existing iMac 5K displays with new MacBook Air or iPad Pros? It really bugs me when my current iMac is deprecated by Apple as unsupported. I'll be stuck with a wonderful 5K display without a computer to drive it.
Yep. Yeah. Now, I've looked at this. I mean, there's a reason why I have 3 of them in my office. I have looked at this. There is Luna Display is a product you can buy, and I have tested it. And let's see, I can put the link in the chat. It lets you run an iMac as a screen, and so you can do exactly what you want. However, it is not really as it's not as ideal as you might like. So, you can read the article, but basically the performance is not great. It's good, but you come to assume things are just going to be smooth, and this is just not, quite smooth. The text gets fuzzy when you move a window, that kind of thing. It takes up a couple of Thunderbolt ports, so you may not want to use up the Thunderbolt ports. And if you start playing video, it gets kind of fuzzy and jerky. Video is really the hardest thing. And there were a couple of funny, weird ones. Apple Watch unlocking didn't work. So it has something to do with security and some aspect of it, because you're somehow controlling another Mac. But I really like being able to walk up to my Mac and have my watch unlock it. So that was something I was surprised that didn't work. And then whenever I restarted, I kind of had to move stuff around, and so that was a little bit fussy. There's utilities that would solve that. So what it kind of comes down to is it depends how badly you want it. That if you want it badly, you can in fact use Lunar Display to drive another Mac. Now, one thing that I have not tried in everyday practice is universal control. So this is something that universal control, you can actually just have your keyboard or your mouse pop over to another machine sitting next to your first one, and the keyboard suddenly starts working on that one too. So you can actually use two Macs side by side. And so that would get you around all the performance problems. The question is would it be sort of too awkward to be bouncing back and forth between the two machines and sharing information between them? So, like how would you set it up such that you could double click a file and then it would you'd be able to edit it on the machine you expect to edit on. And I don't quite know the answer to that, but I would actually, if you're interested in that, I would encourage you to try playing with universal control some more.
Oh boy, this is one that Adam and I strongly disagree on. Kenji wants to know, what do you like for keyboards? Adam likes a machine gun, is what he likes.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can quite get it up here. Nope, not all the way. So this is a DOS keyboard. It's a big clicky keyboard, and it's that's I like big clicky keyboards. Interestingly, actually, what fell here is something even weirder. This is a Contour Designs RollerMouse, and the way you use it is you slide this bar back and forth. My cursor is flipping back and forth as I do this, and it rolls up and down. So you get 360 degrees of motion, and then your buttons are right here. So what it does is it puts your thumbs when you're typing right in front of your pointing device, which I adore. Really, really like that. But so keyboards, yeah, I'm a big clicky keyboard kind of person. And that said, I actually really like the keyboard on my MacBook Air. Once Apple got past the horrible, horrible butterfly keyboards, could not believe they kept doubling down on those. Like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. We're up to the 4th generation now. We've only had 3 recalls. And once they got past that, we're back to the laptop keyboards that I really like. And so those are good. I have a little trouble with the kind of the normal desktop keyboards, the Magic keyboards, not because there's anything really wrong with them, but because they don't work on my RollerMouse. And so I'm back to a trackpad, which I don't like trackpads off to the side. I like things in front. And that's why I actually really prefer the MacBook layout, where the trackpad's in front of the keyboard. I remain befuddled that almost no one has really provided a keyboard trackpad, either tray or combo, that puts it in that orientation for a for a computer. There's a few out there. I keep finding it every now and then. I go look, and there's a few cheap Chinese ones, but I haven't found anyone do a really good job of it yet. So, but you like the Apple, the standard Apple keyboards, right? Don't you, Chuck?
Yeah. I'm not a keyboard snob. I just sort of I do struggle with the touch keyboards, the virtual keyboards on the iPads, but other than that, I just will type on whatever, and I can't say that I don't. I was joking, of course, earlier. I don't hate the clicky keyboards. I just don't find them necessary.
Yeah.
So whatever keyboard, and this is sacrilege, I realize, to a lot of people, even the scissor keyboards, when they weren't having problems, they were fine.
Well, yeah, when they weren't having problems.
As far as feel goes, yeah. But
I never liked the feel either. So Tanya has a 2016 MacBook Pro, which was her previous laptop before the M2 MacBook Air, and now I always hated its keyboard too. And then the keyboard broke out of warranty. So it's a classic. Classic thing. So it was frustrating because I really felt that Apple had they had designed the keyboard to be thin, with really not thinking about what you do with a keyboard. And it was funny because, like this, you want to talk about thin. I mean, this little bug here, it's really small and thin, and this was a good feel. I mean, the smart keyboards were good feels, and I've heard actually similar things about the other ones. I couldn't really test them for long enough to know, but the iPad keyboards have been remarkably good, and there was just that one butterfly keyboard. Man, never cottoned onto it.
Yeah. Let's see. Jennifer asked, where do you find a reputable Apple reseller?
I wonder if there's a page, Apple reseller.
I mean, aren't there still authorized Apple resellers?
Yeah, there are. If you go to locate.apple.com, and you can type in a zip code, and then it will, in theory, tell you. Come on, tell me. Okay, maybe not. Well, in any event, try locate.apple.com. And that's designed to help you find Apple stores as well. So you'll probably get other stuff in that listing too if it works for you. I don't know why it's not working for me at the moment, but that's that's in theory where you would locate all these people. And there's a variety of different Apple resellers, sort of different levels of them. I know a bunch of these people. There's a group called ASMC, that's his Apple Specialist Marketing Corporation or something. It's their kind of industry group. And they're all great people. I've been to their conferences a couple of times, and they try really hard. But I have to say, Apple treats them really badly. So these people are. I mean, it's their business, but it's a labor of love for them because Apple has never liked the idea of anyone but Apple selling products. Really, I mean, they come and go. The relationships with the Best Buys and the Targets and whatnot, but Apple doesn't want to share the. They don't want to share the margins. That's what it comes down to.
Jennifer, for what it's worth, I typed my zip code in, and I got several Best Buy stores. Believe it or not, a Guitar Center and an Apple store. So yeah. I guess those are all. So you'll probably end up with some of those in your results as well.
And I was just going to check. I'm doing a real quick search on Buffalo, New York, because I happen to know there's a reseller there. Let's see if that shows up. They really should. There's also the one I gave is for sales, but they'll also have Apple. If you go up one level, they'll have Apple authorized service providers. And so those are the people who can repair things. And
it's worth noting on that page that it does ask you not only to enter your zip code, but also the product you're looking for. So,
that was my problem. I didn't enter a product.
So
okay, that was my problem. I didn't enter a pack. Yeah, so you're right. Look at that, Guitar Center, Best Buy. Yeah, but here's Mac Solutions Plus, which is the reseller I happen to know about in near Buffalo. And so, you will find them. You might have to click through and get through a lot of the Best Buys and Guitar Centers from the looks of it. I didn't know Guitar Center did this, but any event, so there should be good ones. And I really do recommend the independent resellers. They're great folks. They've been doing it a long time, and they're more likely to be sort of a higher level of service.
Yeah. I'm going to give Kenji the last question. He just points out, isn't the new open-ended Apple Care Plus coverage great, since we can keep paying to never end up with out-of-coverage situations like that MacBook Pro keyboard?
Yeah, that's that is something that Apple really, I thought they did a nice job on. It's one of those situations where, it's insurance, right? Apple Care Plus is insurance. And so I'm sure that Apple has figured out they're making money on it. There's no questions about that. But it's so nice if you do have a laptop that you want to keep going for a long time, that you can just keep paying paying a little bit every month or year and increase the length of the Apple Care. I'm a big fan of Apple Care for basically anything portable. It's just too easy to drop something. I never get it for desktops, and I always get it for laptops and iPhones and iPads. And I think that's it's just had enough experiences over the years that seems to work out. One thing I do want to note, because I think maybe we've all been around long enough that we may not have kind of updated our thinking to the new world order, but a lot of people thought that you had to have Apple Care to call Apple for support. And that is not true anymore. Anyone can call Apple for support at any time, doesn't matter. And they don't check if you have Apple Care or anything like that. So if you have been, struggling with some kind of problem and worried, sort of wished you could call Apple, but think you're out of your warranty or whatever, don't worry about it. Just call them. They'll help you. It's always worth a try.
Yeah. Adam, I know you have another appointment to run to, so I think we're going to wrap this up. But I definitely want to thank DV Mug for having us. This was just a whole lot of fun, and it's always great to get together with user groups.
You guys want to whenever you want. We actually, Chuck, you should put us. We got your weekly, list of what the clubs are doing. You can pencil us in for Tuesday at 3:00. We've been doing it for 2.5 years. We haven't missed a week.
Oh, every week! Wow.
Yeah, we do this meeting every week at the same time. We run MacMost videos. We have Q&A. We stop the recording. We do, social hour, but it's real steady.
You stop the recording and then you get into the good stuff.
Yeah.
You order the pizza.
We actually we got more people to the Zoom meeting than we ever got. That we still have our office and we pay the rent, but we don't have meetings there. So we actually recovered We recovered 10% of our expired members who had moved away. And I emailed them, say, hey, you can come to these meetings. You don't have to drive. You don't come from New York or Florida or Texas or whatever.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I'm the president of the local runners club. And, our board meetings were always in person, for forever. And like everything else, we went to Zoom, and every summer people go, oh, let's have the next board meeting in person, and we do. It's a great time. And then the next one, they're like, let's go back to Zoom. I don't want to drive. It's too hard. I'm traveling. Whatever it is, and so Zoom just works really well for this kind of stuff. And so I have to say the one of the silver linings of the pandemic is it's going to cut down on a lot of real unnecessary driving for this kind of stuff, and get groups being bigger because it's easier. The Runners Club is getting the same thing. We have people who coming to our board meetings who would never drive to Ithaca because they actually don't live in Ithaca. They live the next city over or something. So it's been great.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys very much. Anytime you want to do a meeting, we're available. If you want to do a
so much
group thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Adam, thank you. Always fun.
Thank you all. It's been great.
So Adam, before you go, what was the brand of that RollerMouse that you like?
Contour Designs. Let's see if I can give you a URL.
Oh, got it.
Okay, yeah.
Wasn't that the RollerMouse on a Mac clone laptop some years ago?
Many, many years ago. I even forget which one it was. It was the Outbound or the Colby or one of those. It had a roller. Yeah. And I like it a lot because it puts it, I sit there, with my hand right in front of the keyboard, pull it back a few inches, and then I've got all the control I need. It doesn't give you as much control as a mouse, but it would only be a problem if you're doing a lot of very fine graphics work. I mean, I probably wouldn't play a game like a video game with it either. But for all normal usage, I mean, I've been using this for decades now, and put it this way: the specific one I have, I can't show you, but it actually hangs off the edge of my desk by about 3 inches, and it works perfectly to do that. And that's just the perfect size for mine. And so I actually I was going to go buy another one, and I realized that it wasn't going to hang properly. And so I contacted the company, and they're like, "Well, we have one more in a back room. Would you like that one?" I'm like, "Yes, send it to me." Hopefully that one will hold me for another 10 years before I have to do something different. So they do wear out after a decade or so, but yeah, I've had pretty good luck. All right, everybody, thank you so much for having me. I do need to run, but enjoy, and we'll see you again sometime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Chuck.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.